So today I am going to tell my story. It has been a year since I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. And so I'm going to wait for a couple people to get on. While I do that, I've got my transformation oil going, which I love. It's one of my favorites that I've used going through this process. I'm going to put on some Valor and frankincense, because I love both of them so much. And I will sometimes this topic gets me a little worked up. So just because I am so flippin' passionate about cancer. Going through it, I have learned so much through this process. Let's see. Let's see if I can fix this. Oh, I just made it really dark. Okay. So, all right. I'm just going to start talking. If anyone has any questions, just comment below. I'll be watching and I'll try to answer them as much as possible. First off, I want to say is that I am not a physician. I'm not a doctor. Anything that I say, this is my story. This is what I've gone through. So of course, talk to your doctors, but this is just what I've gone through. This is what I've learned about. So let's start at the beginning. So I grew up healthy. I thought I was pretty good about my eating habits. You know, I didn't drink soda. I never drank. I didn't do drugs. You know what? The lighting is really bothering me. Just one second. Let's see if that helps. Okay. That's way better. You know, I didn't do drugs. I didn't eat a lot of fast food. So I thought, I'm good. I'm healthy. Little did I know I was the complete opposite, because we live in America and Americans eat terrible, and it's not all our fault, and we're going to go into that. So I thought I was healthy. I grew up eating pretty good. My mom made homemade meals all the time. So yeah, got married, had 3 kids. I had all of them natural. Well, I tried to have them all natural. One of them, I ended up having an emergency C-section. But, yeah, we were just living our life, doing our thing. I was 28 years old at the time when I was diagnosed. And so, you know, 28 years old, you don't think about being diagnosed with cancer. I mean, it was not ever a thought that came into my mind that, you know what, maybe I have cancer. I didn't have any side effects. I didn't feel any different. Nothing like that. A lot of people ask me, they're like, how are you feeling? I'm like, I never felt sick in the beginning. So when this all happened, it was a complete surprise to me. So how did I find out that I had thyroid cancer? What were the symptoms? People always ask me that. I had zero symptoms. I wasn't tired. I mean, I had 3 kids, so people always ask me, well, were you tired? I don't know. Maybe I was. But having 3 kids, I was just kind of used to being tired. So, I just had Malachi in February. So, yeah, I was exhausted already. So anyways, okay, so beginning of June, Cody got bit by a copperhead in our front yard, and because of that, I was driving our Tahoe. He usually drives, but I was driving because he had got bit by the snake, and so he looked over at me and was like, hey, what's that lump on your neck? I was like, what lump? And he's like, right there, like, there's a big lump on your neck. Never once had I ever noticed it. I guess he'd never noticed it either. So I was like, oh my goodness, what is that? So the next day I went to the doctor. If you know me, I don't go to the doctor for anything. I hate needles. I never really trusted doctors very much. And so, like, for me to just go to the doctor was a big thing for me because I didn't know what was wrong with me. So I went to a doctor. They said, you need to go see an endocrinologist. So the next day I went to see an endocrinologist. They did a biopsy on my neck, which was incredibly painful and scary because they didn't deaden my neck at all. So here I am laying in a room by myself, and they're like poking all these needles in my neck that I can feel. It was scary and horrible. Something I wasn't really prepared for because it just happened so fast. So they're, putting all the needles in my neck, trying to get, a biopsy. So, so I left, and it's probably about a week and a half later that I got a phone call. Actually, I had to call them. I didn't really like this endocrinologist too much. So, I had to call them and ask, hey, what are my results? Have you gotten them in yet? And this was like a little podunk doctor in Weatherford. So, all you Weatherford peeps. So anyways, call the doctor, a nurse answers. She didn't even work with that particular doctor. And she's like, oh yeah, you want me to tell you the results? And I'm like, sure. I just want to know. I'm tired of waiting. And so she reads it off and says, it looks like you have papillary carcinoma. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? What does papillary carcinoma mean? And she's like, well, from what I know, I think you have cancer. And at that moment, everything closes in, and the dreaded C word became a part of my life. And I was just like, oh my gosh, how did this even happen to me? How do I have cancer? This does not make sense. So that began my journey of trying to figure out what I was going to do. I didn't really like the doctor that I went to, and I didn't really trust him. So I started asking around. And so with the doctor in Weatherford, he basically told me this. Okay, so we need to schedule you for surgery. We're going to remove your thyroid and all the cancer. And then you're going to go in for radiation. They call it radioactive iodine, RAI. And basically what it is it's a tablet that is made with iodine because your thyroid uses iodine. Before this, I didn't even know what a thyroid was. I didn't know why I needed it and what it did. Now I know a lot about it, which means that you really need to support it, a lot. But anyway, so it's radioactive iodine. And what you do is you swallow it. You go to the hospital, you swallow it, and the radiation is supposed to go to the thyroid and kill any residual thyroid cells. Good or bad, burn them out. Some of the things, so Malachi was only, February, March, April, May, June. So he was only 4 to 5 months old when all this started happening. And I was breastfeeding and everything. I'm a new mom. I have this little baby. And now they're telling me that I have thyroid cancer and that I need radiation. And I was just overwhelmed. And one of the things that they told me was that if I did the radioactive iodine, that one of the things is that because I had little children in my home, that I would have to go away and not be around anybody for 12 to 14 days. So I'd have to be in complete isolation because if I did the radiation, I could poison them with radiation because I was so radioactive. So it was pretty crazy. I was like, you know what? That just doesn't sound good to me. I didn't feel right about it. And so I told him, I need to go talk to my family and pray about it, and I'll get back to you. And I never went back. So that became my journey of looking for alternatives. I was like, there's got to be something better. There's got to be something better than zapping my body with radiation. Because one of the first things that they asked me when I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer was, da, 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 have you ever been around radiation? And I was like, okay, how is one of the, the causes of cancer is radiation, and then they're going to blast me with radiation, and they tell me that, the thyroid cancer, that the radiation will only go to my thyroid. Yeah. No. So I started doing research and found that, two of the biggest side effects of radioactive iodine can be leukemia and lung cancer. So I was just like, I'm not okay with that. Let's move on, and we're going to pray and just ask the Lord to show me something else, something better. So I started talking to one of my friends who was also dealing with cancer, and she was like, hey, I have this amazing doctor. You need to go see him. He does alternative medicine. So I went and saw him, and I was like, oh my goodness, that he's like a total godsend. And so what he did was, he was like, okay, we need to get you healthy. But first, you're going to have to go and, have surgery, because my thyroid was actually, or the tumor on my thyroid was the size of a golf ball. So it's pretty big. It was a very large tumor. They said that I'd had cancer for 8 to 12 years. That's a misconception that a lot of people have about cancer, is that most of the time, now there are some cancers that are very fast growing, very aggressive. A lot of cancers are not. And if you find a tumor, it's taken a while for it to grow. So they said that mine took 8 to 12 years to grow to the size that it was. And I was like, no way. There's no way it's been that I've had it that long. Well, we went back into looking at pictures, and there it was. I mean, you could see it in all my pictures, this big lump on my neck. So I went in for another biopsy. This time it was amazing. I went to UT Southwest. If you need to have a surgery or something, highly recommend them. They were incredible. So good. Love UT Southwest. So I had another biopsy because they wanted to see, because of my thyroid and the tumor, that it was so big, they wanted to make sure that I didn't have any lymph nodes. Well, of course I did. So I went in for my surgery. It ended up being 4.5 hours long because of the size of the tumor, and then they actually had to go in here and take lymph nodes out of my neck as well. I think there was like 13 out of 26 of them, of the lymph nodes came back positive. So I was in the hospital for several days. I had a drain coming out of my neck right here. That was the worst part out of all of it, was that, because here's my incision. I don't know if you can see it. It's like faded a ton. I've been putting lots of frankincense and lemongrass on it, and lavender, which is amazing. So it's faded a lot. You can barely see it now. But I had a drain coming out of my neck that would collect all the extra fluid and blood and everything. It was terrible. It was so gross. And I had to have it in for 5 days. And that was the best day when they pulled it out. Okay. So I've had surgery. Thyroid is gone. Tumor gone. And what next? Now with traditional medicine, they would say, okay, it's time to do your radiation. And then hopefully that zaps it all and you're good. I wasn't okay with that. So Dr. K is what I call him. I went to him and I was like, I don't want to do radiation. What are my options? And so he started me on a very strict diet, cutting all sugar. Okay, so if you've ever listened to me on any of my videos, I always talk about sugar because sugar is so bad for you. Cancer or no cancer, and believe it or not, everyone has cancer cells in their body. It's when you have a low immune system that it's able to grow and latch on and start growing. So sugar's terrible. Cancer lives on sugar. Most doctors won't tell you that. My traditional medical doctors have never once asked me about my diet, which is pretty scary because what we put in our body is our fuel. That's how we live. And so put me on a very strict schedule, very strict diet, no sugar, only organic meat, only organic vegetables. I started doing lots and lots of juicing. This is a really great book that I used. It has like 175 different recipes, and it'll tell you like what they're good for your heart, cancer, different things like that, immune system. So I would juice like 2 to 3 times a day, doing like leafy greens. Carrots are very high antioxidant. Ginger, turmeric root, lemon, all of those things are really, really good for you. Cancer or no cancer, everything I'm saying, you should be doing whether you have been diagnosed with cancer or not, because that's something that will boost your immune system, which everyone needs because everyone eats terrible. So started juicing. I cut all the gluten in my diet. I had a ton of tests happen. They did one where they took my blood and looked under the microscope and looked for parasites. And I could actually like see them swimming around on the screen, which was kind of nasty. And most people have parasites. So I started, I went and got a port installed. See that? I know, it's kind of gross. So it's under my skin, and I use this to get all of my IVs and vitamins, everything like that. So because I'm so small and I don't have super good veins, and because I was going in every day to get IVs, they said to get a port because it would just be easier. So I went and got my port installed. So I started doing high dose vitamin C. So it was a vitamin, it was an IV bag full of vitamin C. Vitamin C has been known to kill cancer. I did a thing called UVIV. So what they would do is they would take my blood out of my body and put it in a bag, and then they would inject it with straight O2, straight oxygen. And then they have a machine that has UV lights in it. So I always say that like my blood is getting a tan. I'm like super white, so might as well give my blood a tan. And so what it did was it would run through this machine, and the UV lights would kill any bacteria or parasites or anything in my blood, and then it would go back into my body, and then it would have pure oxygen. Because that's another thing, is that cancer need, like our bodies need oxygen, right? And so just that boost helps our bodies fight. So everything that I did was to boost my body to fight whatever I was doing, or whatever was in my body. I did a colon cleanse. Colon cleanses are really, really important. I'm going to do a whole video just on colon cleanses because it's so important. What I've been learning is that most diseases start in the gut. And so because of our diets, we should be, okay, this is gross. Here's some poop talk for you. You should be pooping 2 to 3 times a day. If you're not, you need a colon cleanse. Plain and simple. Most people don't. And so, so he gave me a bunch of supplements and different things to help with that. And what that does is it just cleans everything out. Your colon holds toxins. You know, that is where everything should be expelled and, you know, rid out of your body. Well, when our colons are holding that, it's holding in your toxins, disease, everything. And we need to clean it out. You know, we give our body, our cars oil changes, kind of the same thing. We need to clean ourselves out. So I was doing that, coffee enemas, another poop thing, but that was really good to clean out your colon. What else did I do? Tons of supplements, just boosting my body as much as possible with as much nutrients as possible. Okay, so I did that. I'd used essential oils to boost my body, to support that. Okay, so I did all of that for several months, about 3 or 4 months. I was going and getting IVs 5 days a week. So it was a huge commitment, but totally worth it. I would do it all over again. So they did a thing called the Greek test. I'm about to get on my soapbox. So the Greek test is where they take your blood and they send it to Greece. Imagine that, why it's called the Greek test. I've got a book here. Let's see. Is this where it talks about it? Hold on. Okay, so the Greek test is basically they take your blood, they send it to Greece. And in a laboratory, they do it for 3 weeks. They take your blood and they put it in different situations. They test it against different vitamins. They test it against different supplements. They test it against different chemotherapy drugs. And in these Petri dishes, this test costs about $3,500. Totally worth it. And it's illegal to do in America, FYI, so you have to send them to Greece. Because, God forbid, we figure out what's going on with our bodies and cancer and be able to treat it like that and know exactly what to do. So they put your blood with all these different supplements, all these different chemicals and everything. And at the end of the 3 weeks, they can tell you exactly what you need, what supplements you need to take. If you're going to do chemotherapy, what chemos you need. If you have cancer and it's traveling to another part of your body, they can tell you. They can count, it's called a tumor marker. And so what they do is they go in and there's a certain, and I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but basically they can figure out how much tumor matter is in your body. So it's pretty cool. Sorry, got it. So anyway, so I had the Greek test done. It came back and Dr. K knew exactly what my body needed, how much of it, how long to do it for. And so I started doing, it's called IPT. IPT stands for insulin potentiation targeted low dose chemotherapy. I'm going to read you a little tidbit about it. Okay, so here you go. If you or a person you know chooses to take chemotherapy or radiation for whatever reason, you can still take measures to reduce the negative effects and increase your chance of surviving the treatments. Okay, so first off, when people hear cancer patient, I'm a cancer patient. I have all my hair. I'm still functioning. I'm still full of energy. I've not stopped a day of my treatment because of this. you're not picturing a cancer patient most of the time. You are picturing a chemo patient. Most of the time, cancer doesn't make you lose your hair. Cancer doesn't make you super sick. It's the treatments. It's the chemotherapy. It's the radiation. So keep that in your mind, okay? Okay, so a chemosensitivity test is what I was talking about, the Greek test. First, get a chemotherapy sensitive test to determine which chemotherapy will actually kill your version of cancer. Modern medicine doesn't do this most of the time because this test is illegal in America, FYI. This is done with specialized Greek or German blood tests. They're doing this in Germany as well. Germany is like amazing. They are doing so many amazing cancer treatments that they're not doing in America. And we'll talk about that later. These involve harvesting the cancer cells out of your blood, breaking them down genetically, and finding which markers are compatible with treatment of your cancer. It takes about 2 weeks. Then you get a complete detailed report that shows which chemotherapy or drugs are best for your particular cancer. This isn't the typical of the approach in the US, where we don't look at the individual's cancer. We look at a category of cancer and see which drugs have worked best on this category in the past. So they take you as an average person and go, okay, so the average person did well on this drug. So patient A, B, and C, this is what you get. Even though maybe patient A and B, maybe they need a completely other drug to get rid of it. See what I mean? So this like targets it. Okay, so insulin potentiated therapy, IPT. So if you hear me say IPT, that's what this is. You may also want to consider doing targeted chemotherapy or insulin potentiated therapy. In this approach, the patient is injected first with insulin to lower their blood sugar levels. Cancer cells have lots of receptor sites for sugar. As soon as there is a low sugar in the blood, cancer cells begin to starve. So there's all these little receptors on the cancer cells, and when you take the sugar away, they start opening up, looking for sugar, because that's what they live on. Most doctors are not going to tell you that. Because the cancer is starving and has to have sugar to survive, immediately the patient is injected with a small fractionated amount of exact chemotherapy that matched their cancer. Because the cancer is starving, it eats up this chemotherapy, and the cancer has potential to be killed. This way, the chemotherapy can be targeted toward the cancer cell. That's why it's also called targeted chemotherapy. Conventional medicine has spent years trying to figure out how to get the chemotherapy focused on cancer cells so there's less damage to the rest of the body, and now there's a way. The side effects are very minimal with IPT, and the patient rarely loses any hair at all. Okay, so that's what I'm doing right now. So when I started, it was 10 weeks, 1 treatment a week. So I would go in every Monday for an IPT. So you go in fasting, and then they test your blood. They see what your level is, and then they give you insulin, drops your blood sugar to they want you about between 50 and 40, and you always have a nurse sitting there right beside you watching you. And they're constantly testing your blood to see when, they call it the therapeutic moment, when you're at the therapeutic moment. When it hits the therapeutic moment, that's when they inject you with all the chemotherapies. So it's 10% of normal chemotherapy. That's why I still have my hair. That's why I'm not sick. That's why I have energy. It's only going after the cells that I was tested for. So it's pretty cool. It's also not approved by the FDA, so it's not, you can't go to your doctor and say, hey, I want to do the IPT treatment. They're going to look at you and go, I don't know what you're talking about, or they'll say, well, we can't do that in the United States because it's not FDA approved. The reason that it's not FDA approved, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, is that it's a heck of a lot cheaper. You're using 10% of the drug, and cancer is a multi-billion-dollar industry. This is like getting on my soapbox here, but you know, we spend billions of dollars on cancer research when you can go to Mexico, you can go to Switzerland, you can go to Germany, and they are treating cancer and curing it all day long. And they are using IPT. Well, why if we're so, you know, looking for a cure, if we're so wanting to cure cancer, why is the Greek test illegal? Why is IPT illegal? Why are all these different things? Why is treating cancer naturally illegal in America? If we want cancer gone, why would it be illegal? It makes no sense except that they want the money. Do your research. Look it up, and you will find out that it's all about money. Okay, so that's my soapbox. Okay, so I started doing the IPT, and now I am down to 1 IPT a month. So you do 10 treatments once a week for 10 weeks, and then you do 1 treatment a month for a year. That's what I'm doing. Really the only side effects that I've had is like the next day I'll feel pretty nauseous, just because my body, because I'm small for one, and I'm sensitive, and so anything that I take, I mean it can be anything, affects me more than most normal people. So I get a little nauseous, I feel a little bleh, but the next day I go in and get, it's called a mineral replacement IV. It's this big bag of minerals and vitamins and stuff, and so they give that to me. Never baby. So they give that to me, and usually by the end of the day I feel great. So that's really all the side effects. Because of this, so when I first started, my tumor marker was at 3.8, and the last time they checked it, I was at 0.3. So 0 is undetectable. So I'm getting close. I mean, it's really getting close, and so super excited about that. Through all of this, like, I really felt the Lord through all of this. You know, cancer is a scary word. Most people think that it's a death sentence. And I really feel like God has showed me, like, I remember when I first got cancer and my mom told me, you know, I was like, you know, why me? Like, I'm healthy. I haven't done anything that I thought would cause cancer, and I still got it, you know? And so, like, I remember my mom telling me, she's like, I don't know why you have cancer, but I believe God is going to use this. And so I was like, yeah, okay, you know, whatever, you know, like, I wanted to believe it, but at that time I was just in total shock of it all. And so, like, now I'm like, I love talking about nutrition. I love pointing people into another direction. I love giving them another viewpoint of cancer. That it's not a death sentence, you guys. Like, do your research. Do your research. If I could tell you anything, do your research. Don't let the C word scare you into making decisions before you know what you're saying yes to. There's so many other options out there right now that your doctor's not going to tell you about. One, because they're not taught nutrition. They're taught medicine. Medicine and nutrition are not the same thing. When you take a pill, you know, they know you're having this symptom, take this pill, and it should make you feel better. They're not taught you have this symptom, let's fix it with nutrition. Let's give you this supplement. Let's cut this out of your diet and you'll feel better and you'll heal. That's the other thing, is you have to allow your body to heal instead of just covering up a symptom. And that's with anything. That's not just with cancer. That's with everything. There are so many diseases and problems in the world that we're trying to fix with medicine that should really be fixed with nutrition and health. And so there's so many different things. And so if you or your family member have come down with cancer, one thing is that if you have found a tumor, it didn't just pop up like that. Most of the time, cancer, it takes several years for just a little tumor to show up. Women, please, 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 please do not get mammograms. Mammograms are a form of radiation. So you're going into this machine, you know, you're pushing your breast up against this machine and it's shooting radiation into your breast. So people go, well, what do I do? It's called a thermogram. Write it down. There's several places you can go get them. And what it is you, and I've had it done. You go and you sit in a cold room. They take it down to about 60 degrees. And they take an infrared camera. And they take pictures of your body. And what it does is that cancer is hot. What cancer does is that they have the ability, the cells have an ability to, thanks Josh. So cancer has the ability, what they do is they go in and they latch on to blood vessels. And they steal those blood vessels and use them for their own. So what happens when you do a thermogram, and this, you can do it for other things other than just breast cancer. But what they do is, so you go in a cold room, they bring your body temperature down, and they take several pictures. And so because of those cancer cells that have latched on to those blood vessels, it makes them hot. It makes them warmer than the rest of your body. They are able to find cancer before it's even become a tumor. With mammograms, it has to be at least a tumor for it to even show up on the scan, right? Well, with a thermogram, if there's a hot spot, they're able to go in there and look deeper and find out, is this cancer or not? And they can catch it before it even becomes a tumor. Pretty cool stuff. So what they do is they take a picture, they look at it, and then what they do is they take your hands and they put them in ice cold water. Because what you do is you have these lymph nodes right here that go in. If you're wearing a underwire bra, please, please, please think about finding something else to wear. You have lymph nodes. What are lymph nodes for? It's to get the gunk out of your body, right? It's to clean everything out. Well, what happens is when you have those underwire bras, it holds all that stuff in and your body is not able to clear it out, all those toxins. If you're wearing deodorant with aluminum and heavy metals, all of that is going into your breasts. Your skin is the largest organ in your body, and we need to treat it as so. We need to think about everything that you put on your body is absorbed. Okay? You have all these pores on your body, and you put on lotion, makeup, shampoo. You know, I never thought about shampoo. I thought about lotions, but shampoo, you're putting all this soap and shampoo and toxins on your head, and then it's absorbing into your brain and your bloodstream. It's not good stuff. So I wonder why, you know, cancer is rampant right now. It's because, you know, the FDA doesn't regulate everything that is put into our body, into our cosmetics, into our soap, shampoos, conditioners, deodorants, all that stuff. And so we're putting toxins and chemicals on our bodies every day to smell good, to look pretty. There's other options out there, you guys. So go get thermograms instead of mammograms. Number 1, cut your sugar. Don't eat sugar. Sugar's in everything. I know it is, but there's ways to get around it. Okay, you ready? So 1 is natural sugars. You can use honey, maple syrup, coconut nectar, brown sugars. If you're going to eat sugars, at least eat brown sugars. They're not as processed and they don't break down in your body as much. Like coconut sugar is really good. So there's ways to get around that, okay? You say, oh, I can't quit sugar. It's because you're addicted to it. People say that sugar is as addictive as cocaine. So your body wants it. It turns into fat. That's why people are obese. Colon cleanses are amazing. I'm going to do a whole class on doing colon cleanses and liver cleanses. And just look at what you're putting on your bodies. So important. Another thing was that I use saunas now. My body, I had a toxic level of like ridiculousness. Let me see if I have my test right here. I keep it around because I love to show people, because I don't know if people believe me of how toxic I was. Let's see. I was just showing someone yesterday. Oh, I don't know where it went. Anyways, you'll just have to believe me. I had my toxic levels, and these were all pollutants from the outside that I'd been putting on my body. That includes like laundry detergent, dish detergent. When you wash your dishes and then you eat off of them, there's still soap and chemicals on those dishes that you're putting in your body. Eating organic fruits and vegetables. If you can eat the skin of the vegetable or the fruit, it should be organic, because pesticides and, all different chemicals that are sprayed on them are so bad for us. Organic meat, especially if you have little girls and little boys, both of them. Our animals are injected with hormones, antibiotics, all different kinds of crud that then we put in our body, and then we absorb that. If people say, oh, your body can't absorb it. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Why would our bodies not absorb it? Of course it does. Organic milk, organic dairy is really important for our little girls. If you've noticed that little girls are developing faster, getting their periods sooner, it's because of the hormones in the milk. And because why do they give cows hormones? To make them produce more milk, right? And so we're putting that into our bodies and absorbing that as well. I know, I'm hitting you with all kinds of stuff. So yeah, those are some really important things that you can change in your life today and start becoming healthier. Different supplements, using essential oils. I love essential oils. I use them every single day. I use supplements. I take tons of vitamins and supplements every single day. I've changed over all of my beauty products to be non-toxic. And just tons of research, reading and talking to people, watching videos. There's so much information out there that your doctor's not going to tell you. And so you really have to take control of your health, of your body, and just really ask the Lord for guidance. Ask him, what am I supposed to do? I mean, my doctor is still pushing me to do radiation, my medical doctor, and I just keep telling her, I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't feel okay with this. I feel like the Lord has really told me not to do it, and what I'm doing right now is working, so we're just going to keep doing that. So, yeah, that's my story. It's kind of long. it's my soapbox, and it's something that I feel very, very passionate about. I love talking about nutrition. I love talking about this stuff because I really feel like the Lord has really put this in my lap. I never thought that I would talk about this. I never thought that I would care about it. I went to film and television school, so maybe that'll help me somewhere in the videos, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I've learned. So here's a couple of books if you're interested, a couple of books that I love that I used and kind of read through like every day when I first heard about that I had cancer. This is called The Cancer Killer, and it's called The Cause is the Cure. It's all about, well, it's reversed, but it's all about modern cures for cancer, and different ways and options that you have instead of doing radiation and chemotherapy. So that's a really good book. The Juicing Diet. Everyone could juice, and everyone should be juicing. You can get so many nutrients and vegetables in one glass that you would never sit down and eat. Really good. And because it pulls all the fiber out of all the vegetables and fruit, your body absorbs the nutrients so much faster. Here's another really good book. It's called Rainbow Green, Live Food Cuisine. We do not eat live food anymore. Fruit, vegetables, oils, everything has a frequency. So if you looked under a microscope close enough, this bottle of frankincense would, you would see everything is energy. God spoke life into existence. He put energy. The sun has energy. Everything has energy. If we didn't have energy, we wouldn't be alive, right? And so we don't eat food that's alive anymore. Everything's cooked and processed and frozen and everything else. And so it's really important to eat live food. Food that is going to go in and work in your body for good. And then this one is more information about IPT, the treatment that I'm doing. It's called the Kinder, Gentler Cancer Treatment. My doctor actually helped to write this book. It's really good. It just has a lot of different information about IPT. So if you're interested in that. So those are just a couple of resources that I've used and that I've found to be really helpful. One other book. Oh, I don't know if it's in here. Nope, I don't have it. It's called The Essential Life, and it's all about essential oils and using that in healing and supporting your body as well. So, this has been a long video, longer than I expected, but it's important, and there's too much to talk about in just one video. So, if you have any questions at all, I would love to talk to you. Let me know if you have any questions about anything that I've talked about today, and I would love to help you, point you in the right direction. Like I said in the beginning, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician. This is all my story. This is what I've learned, what has worked for me and my family and my body and my treatments. So, yeah, I'd love to share with you and help you through your journey. And, yeah, we'll see what happens from this place on. 1 year today, being diagnosed and feeling better than ever. So, anyways, let me know if you have any questions, and I would love to share with you more about my journey and help you through this hard time, because it's not fun, and sometimes it's scary, and so I've been through it, and I would love to help you. So, anyways, I hope you all have a good night, and I'll talk to y'all later.